This is the Jocko Underground Podcast, number 24, with Echo Charles. And me, Jocko. I'm going to read something. It's kind of disturbing in a way. A 7-year-old boy in Taiwan who was allegedly body slammed 27 times during judo practice by both his classmates and coach suffered a brain hemorrhage and was ultimately removed from life support, a report said Tuesday. The BBC, citing the Taipei Times, reported that the coach has been charged with assault and using a minor to commit a crime, but his charges would likely be upgraded to include or be replaced by injury-causing death. The boy reportedly attended a judo practice in April and suffered a brain hemorrhage after the repeated injuries. He slipped into a coma and was on life support for 70 days. I still remember that morning when I took him to school, the unidentified boy's mother previously told local outlets. He turned around and said, "Mama, goodbye." By night, he had become like this. The young victim's uncle reportedly videotaped the allegedly violent class. Footage of the incident purportedly shows the boy being thrown by older classmates acting on orders from the coach, according to the report. The coach even allegedly took a turn. Then, when the child fell unconscious, the instructor allegedly accused him of feigning the injury. The report said the report identified the coach by his surname, Ho, and said investigators determined he was not a licensed instructor. Ho was ultimately released on bail, equivalent to $3,500, according to the BBC. If convicted, he reportedly faces up to life in prison. Horrible. There's another story that added a little bit more detail that had come out a little bit later. He had only started taking judo classes 2 weeks prior to the horrific incident after pleading with his parents to let him try out the martial art. After doctors spoke to his family, they agreed to withdraw his life support. Ho was initially released by the district prosecutor following questioning, who accepted his explanation that the incident was merely part of normal training. So, there you go. By the way, I originally picked up on this story from McDojo Life, who has an Instagram channel and who breaks down a lot of these fake, or well, mostly it's fake martial arts, but he has definitely honed in on some abusive instructors. This is one of them. And, you know, look, I guess the reason why did I single this out? First of all, because it's awful. I mean, obviously, it's just completely ridiculous. And when you hear about this kind of just, man, what do you call this? I don't know what the word that I would use to describe. I don't like this type of person. It's like, it's bully for sure, but then there's a next level bully. And I guess when we start talking about martial arts and we start talking about parenting and the kids asking to go, and, you know, you and me, obviously, Echo, we encourage people all the time to get their kids involved in martial arts and to get involved in martial arts themselves because of all the benefits that it has. And then you have a piece of scum like this that does this. So just pay attention. Just pay attention to who the hell you're giving your kids to, and pay attention. Watch some of those classes yourself. And also the people that you're hanging around. Maybe it's you that's going to this class that's getting beat down. You shouldn't be getting beat down in a class, especially as a beginner. Look, if you're in the game and you've been training for 3 years, you're going to have some freaking hard classes, for sure. Martial arts training is not always going to be easy. It's going to be a push. But there's a difference between getting pushed and getting killed, obviously, or even getting injured. And then listen, just for kids, the best thing you can do for kids is make things fun for them. That's the best thing you can do. The idea that you're going to expose a kid to this kind of abuse that somehow is going to help them it's patently wrong. It's kind of like, with exposure therapy. If I take if you're scared of needles and I overexpose you to needles and it freaks you out, you go backwards. You don't get better. You get worse. If you're scared of blood and I overexpose you to blood, it doesn't get better. It gets worse. So if you expose your kids to something and you overexpose them to the point where they're uncomfortable, it doesn't make them better. Look, a little bit uncomfortable is okay. That's okay, as long as that exposure therapy isn't overwhelming. When you expose people to something where they're overwhelmed, hey, it's Way the Warrior Kid, right? The kid's scared of water, you don't throw him in the water. No, you let him look at the water, then you let him touch the water, then you let him wade in the water, then you let him go to his knees, then you let him dunk his head. And at any time, if they feel uncomfortable, you let him walk away. It's okay. See, there's nothing to be afraid of. You can go forward. So it's just a heads up. Thanks to McDojo Life for throwing this out there, but maybe getting this out to more people so you're paying attention. Sometimes we think we're doing our kids a favor, right? Pushing them super hard, and here they are. So, evil people out there.
Yeah. You kind of, even like as an adult, you kind of run that risk, like when you go, because there's a huge factor of intimidation, especially for kids, like big time, where they go into a judo class, we'll say, because I used to take judo when I was a kid, and you go in there and it's like the environment is pretty intimidating, so you just want to I'll just obey, fit in, and you don't want to get in trouble, yelled at in front of It's just intimidating, so you're just going to go with the flow a lot of the time. And then that can be the case, too, as an adult as well. If you go into, a situation like that where it's kind of intimidating, you're going to try to mind your P's and Q's and do what they say kind of a thing, get through it. And you got to kind of be aware of, almost on a moral level, hey, man, are they bullying me right now? Is this right? And you're always fighting with that because you don't know the tradition, you don't know the tradition of the class, of the school or whatever, the history, whatever. And that can be part of the tradition sometimes. And you don't want to mess with that as well. So it can be freaking hard, man. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to your kids too, it's there's an element of, actually a huge element is you kind of trust that class with your kid.
For sure.
And it's shoot, if they're just slamming him like that to that degree where he's getting knocked out on the,
this, you hear when child molesters get sent to prison, they get raped themselves and killed, and you are feeling good about that, right? Yeah. This is a similar thing.
I feel similar.
I want this guy to get put into prison with a bunch of that is a little excerpt of what we are doing on the Jocko Underground podcast. So if you want to continue to listen, go to jockounderground.com and subscribe. And we're doing this to mitigate our reliance on external platforms so we are not subject to their control. And we're doing it so we can give you more control, more interaction, more direct connections, better communications with us, strengthen this legion of troopers that are in the game with us. So thank you. It's jockounderground.com. It costs $8.18 a month. And if you can't afford to support us, we can still support you. Just email assistance@jockounderground.com and we'll get you taken care of. Until then, we will see you mobilized underground.